Imagine this. You pick up a bucket of KFC on your way home from work. You get home, freshen up, and sit down to eat with your family. You're all enjoying your dinner when someone in the family yells out, "Why is there a tracker in this chicken?" You are confused and surprised, so you ask them to repeat themselves. But you realize that you heard them right the first time. They did find trackers in the chicken. Sounds insane, right? That's never possible, right? We'd be so creeped out by companies doing such a thing that would never allow it, right? Wrong. We already allow a lot more absurdity than that. It's just that we seem to only allow tech companies to get away with such behavior. In this video, we will explore otherwise outrageous things we have normalized as long as a tech company does it. Imagine this situation. You go to a grocery store, you buy one of those pre-made dinner and bring it home. You realize that you want that dinner to taste different, so you spice it up your way. In fact, even though the dinner packaging said it tastes better with cold soft drinks, you make yourself some hot coffee. You just like it that way. While doing any of these things, do you feel like a criminal? Do you feel like you're violating anyone or anything by simply exercising your basic freedom? Now, what if the grocery store said you are in trouble, you are not welcome there anymore, and you might even hear from their lawyers? No matter how absurd that sounds to you, sadly, we created a world of double standards where we allow tech companies to treat us that way. Somehow, as a society, we have agreed that while it would be outrageous for Walmart to tell us that we cannot add custom spice to food we buy from them, or not drink soda like their packaging recommends, tech companies can have similar absurd nonsense in their terms of service. Modifying their product you paid for to the best of your liking can often result in end of service, if not legal and financial troubles. Basically, if you modify that pre-made dinner and turn it from basic to awesome, people recognize your culinary talents. But if you even try to study the insides of many tech products to bypass their current limitations, you better have good lawyers. And don't even get me started on these companies remotely accessing our phones, computers, TVs, and whatnot. They even delete and remove stuff from our libraries that we own. Can you imagine if a store sent people to your home to remove items they previously sold you without your consent? They'd be in prison and they would deserve it. I don't get it. Am I going crazy, or are tech companies really above the law? I remember Apple implemented this change in the iOS, which started requiring every app trying to access your location data to request explicit permission. I still cannot believe the number of apps that surprised me with requests to track me. Until that point, we only heard about your usual big tech offenders, but that moment made the scale of the problem very obvious and unavoidable. It's like every app, no matter what the use case was, had some deep interest in tracking my whereabouts all the time. Naturally, me being me, I just said no to almost any and every request made by those apps. But then came the more egregious part. These people learn from their mistakes. Gradually, they started baking that requirement into their licensing agreement, such that now you will either give them permission to track you and leak your data to third parties, or not get to use their app at all. That should be illegal. There should be some law somewhere saying that such absurd choices cannot be forced on consumers in a free society. I know what some of you are thinking. I can already hear some of you saying, "But you clicked I agree on the terms and conditions." That brings me to my next point. That is a terrible argument to make. The overwhelming majority of us hopelessly rely on tech companies and not really the other way around. The biggest issue here is that many apps and software have become the de facto standard that we all are forced to use. For example, one may have to put up with Microsoft Windows, Microsoft Office, and whatever nonsense terms of service they come up with because of work and aligning with the rest of society. So letting the tech giant put in their contracts, "You will be my slave if you use this software," surely cannot be legal. Or is it? I don't know. I'm honestly getting sick and tired of keeping up with just how many violations of our freedom, privacy, and basic human rights we allow tech companies to get away with. Anyway, my point being that we clearly understand that just because they write something in their terms of service or licensing document shouldn't imply that it is the law now. I just want that same lens to be used to view the situation when these companies keep encroaching on our privacy, rights, and liberties. Even for the software or apps we aren't forced to use in the way we just talked about, It can easily become the de facto standard simply because of its market share. I think once the number of people, or rather proportion of people, who use these things exceed a critical number, the alternatives become penalties instead of choices. As an example, think about what happened to MySpace when people flocked to Facebook, or Google Videos when people flocked to YouTube. It's not that YouTube or Facebook forced anyone to use their platforms directly. It's just how these systems work. The more people they can get to use them, the more people are likely to sign up, and it snowballs from there. And all that snowballing results in unfair split of power between tech companies and the public. Which means that we either need to limit the size of a tech company in terms of its impacted users, or they must be held to much higher standards and classed as pseudo-public entities who must bear the responsibility that comes with their undue influence. And that thought brings me to the next subject. It is often pointed out that tech grows faster than we can regulate it. You feel even more discouraged when you realize that we usually have dinosaurs in public offices who couldn't even delete an app from their phone, let alone go after big tech. It's not that I don't respect some of their wisdom from experience, but they should at best be advisors to younger or more tech-savvy people who know that you cannot leave your email back at home. As to the subject of actually regulating something like tech, it isn't that simple. And as such, I will have to request that you stick around for my future videos on the subject by subscribing to this channel. But I will remind you of something important on this subject though. For today, let's just focus on the politicians who will have to be the ones doing all the work to regulate the industry. And when it comes to regulations, the problem is that it is hard to regulate something if your net worth and power depends on not doing so. This has been the Scientalist. See you in the next video.